All right, everybody. We've got another very special guest for you all. Returning special guest, the legend, Darick Robertson. What's going on, Darick?
How are you doing, Chris? Nice to see you, Mike.
Hey, good to see you too. You're only a legend because it's like the 5th time you've been on the show. That's
I have legendary amounts of time on my hands.
Yeah. No other reason.
Yeah.
So I mean,
anything.
I'm a little disappointed today. We are actually gonna talk about all the shit that you had in the background, but you blurred it. So now we have to talk about the shit that you're writing and
this
drawing,
is actually what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay.
I live in a time warp.
Yeah, you're just moving as fast as Flash, or really slow. I don't know.
Oh God, I wish.
Yeah.
So
what's going on, man? We got a couple books to talk about today, and I know we talked a little bit about The Boys before we started recording. But so, what are your thoughts? I know you said you're more of just a fan this season. So, what are your thoughts about the season? You liking it? The characters?
Yeah, no, it's. Yeah. I mean, I've yet to see this show get worse. I mean, it's only been awesome. I mean, the acting is incredible. The direction's been incredible. The writing's been incredible. COVID has kept me from the set for the last couple of seasons because of their lockdown and, of course, the world's lockdown on season 3. Yep. So I haven't been up there and involved or in the know like I normally would be. But it's been incredible. But that makes it kind of fun when it's on television.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a lot of fun for you to watch.
Are you still doing a lot of background for the show?
Not as much, no. I mean, I think the show has gone in a direction where the comic book element of it within the show is less needed.
Yep.
So it's more of a case where, they when we were setting up the world, they needed me more. Mm-hmm. And now it's like they basically have the existing art that they need to put on the walls of the 7 tower and things like that. Because that's always fun for me when I'm watching the show. I'll walk down the hall and I'll see one of my covers on the wall.
That's cool.
Hey, there I am.
Yeah, hey, that's pretty neat. Yeah,
and I've been on that set too, so it's really cool. When you're in it too, it feels like very much like you're in a corporate but it's on a soundstage, so that's always kind of mind blowing.
That's wild. Yeah, you're just like waiting for Homeland to show up behind you.
Yeah, I mean, that would be Anthony,
Yeah, right. Yeah, Anthony.
Because he's not in character. He might be in the costume, but if he's not in character, he's just Anthony.
Yeah,
he's good. He's a good guy.
Cool. So let's talk about Turtles first, and then we'll get into Gemini Blue. So Chris got to talk about a little bit on the episode this week because we had a review copy for the new series, the Jason Aaron Turtles, which we're super excited about. And then you got involved. You're going to be on issue 5, right? You were talking about?
Yeah.
So you're drawing issue 5. Yeah, drawing issue 5. And can you talk a little bit about?
And I'm doing covers.
Okay, you're doing covers moving forward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. At least up to issue 5.
Okay. So how's that been going, like working with Jason on that?
Jason's been great. I mean, we've known each other, casually for a lot of years and exchanged numbers, over a decade ago, going like, hey, we should do something together. So we both have wanted to work together, just nothing has really presented itself. And you can only do one project at a time. So, So this was great. It kind of landed in my lap. And when I found out it was Jason writing, I reached out to him. I'm like, I'm super excited about this. And it's mutual. And he seems to really like what I'm doing. It's an unusual story. I don't want to go into details, but it's not as turtle centric as you would think. It's more about a new character that's coming into the universe, and the storytelling on it has been a really fun challenge. So I'm doing my own thing with it, checking with him. I'm like, hey, I kind of see it like this, and are you cool with that? And he's like, I love where you're going with it, keep going. So
nice. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really great. I thought that first issue he did, it's coming out soon, everybody, so you'll be able to read it, and I highly recommend picking it up, was just such a amazing thing. Like, I think his career, I love his Marvel stuff, obviously. I was really sad to see him go from Marvel as an exclusive writer, but since that happened, I think he's had like almost a renaissance in like his creativity. Like, the stuff he's doing now is so awesome. To see you guys team up is awesome news.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's weird because a lot of people are saying, like, I'm showing them the work and I'm getting such positive feedback that they're like, I can't believe you've never worked on this property before. It seems like such a fit for you.
Yeah.
And my first comic ever when I was a kid was Space Beaver, and Space
right.
Beaver was my own creation. It was anthropomorphic animals, and there was a turtle in it. So everybody thought, oh, is this because of Ninja Turtles? But I wasn't really that into Ninja Turtles. I love the original black and white ones. I even have my copy of Ninja Turtles #1 still, but which was a fun thing to find. I still had.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's worth something.
Yeah, for sure.
But
this whole boys thing falls apart. I got some money to fall back on.
Yeah, well, pay rent for a month.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool though that that original series. But I got the joke right away when I saw it as a kid. It was like, oh, I get it. It's Teen Titans. It's Wolverine, Daredevil, ninja stuff.
Yep.
It's mutants because the X-Men are super popular, and anthropomorphic animals are super popular. So it's all of them in one blender. And I loved Eastman's work. So I mean, I thought the artwork was really eye-grabbing. But as it went on, I just thought it was kind of a joke that got out of control. And then the next thing I know, it was like taking over the world, which was amazing to watch happen. And I've always been super happy for Kevin Eastman because he's just a good dude. But for me, it was, but working on it, I was never really inspired by it. My inspiration came from Rocket Raccoon that Mike Mignola was drawing at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And the Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew was Scott Shaw was doing. And I absolutely loved all those characters. I would still love to work on a Captain Carrot book if I had the chance.
Oh my God, please.
That's more my jam. But then what's been really wonderful is that when you take a great writer like Jason Aaron, a super supportive, awesome company to work for like IDW, spent a lot of my friends from DC after the big DC bloodbath landed over there. So I'm working with a lot of people that I know and have a good rapport with, and they're being really, really supportive and cool with what I'm doing and give me a lot of free reign. And we have to run everything by Nickelodeon, but that's okay. They've been pretty cool too, all things considered. So getting a chance to work in this world and work with an awesome writer and take on these characters, it feels like a real natural fit. Like I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I think your art style fits, like, especially talking about Eastman and everything. Like, it works for that world.
That's what's
shocked I never put those two things together before.
Yeah.
Well, they're pulling it back more to that original kind of like gritty indie feel, and I think that's really a good choice for this property right now. I love that last movie. Two of my friends were the writers on Mutant Mayhem, and that was the first thing. And so I kind of had to watch it because my friends wrote it, but then I thought that was awesome. I thought it was the best adaptation I've seen that at least connected for me. I like the old Henson movies and stuff, but I was never a big fan of the cartoon because I was just a little on the outgrowing Saturday morning cartoon edge, unless it was edgy or unusual. Like I was far more into stuff like Heavy Metal the movie and Akira. I was Ninja at that. So I sort of missed the boat on that, and but I thought Mutant Mayhem had a lot of charm and really fleshed out the world, and they really seemed like teenagers, and that was fun. So it made me like the property. So when it came around again, and when this popped up and said, "Hey, we want to work with this," I was very excited about it.
And I was going to ask you about IDW too, but you said you already know a lot of people there, so that's pretty great that worked out.
Yeah, and I didn't. I have off and on. It's been a funny thing. Like I've done work for them. Currently, Matt Comics is headed up by Denton, and then the reason I know Denton is I did covers for him for like Judge Dredd when he was at IDW. So it's like but comics is like this. It's like an incestuous octopus, and these people lose their job here and they get a job over there, and that person. And it's also a good rule of thumb: try not to piss anybody off if you can help, because you never know where they're going to land.
Yeah, if you're going to have to work on a book for them. And that brings up a great segue into Magma and Greaser Gemini Blues. But I mean, Chris and I have always talked about. Well, I think we talked to was it Lanzig and Kelly about Magma before, Chris? About how they felt comfortable going there because it was a lot of great people that they had worked with in the industry, some editors and stuff that pulled them over to Magma. So you want to talk a little bit about how you got working with them? Was that the same thing for you? You just, some people you had
a little bit. Yeah. Like Denton reached out to let me know he was starting this company and would I be interested? And I started thinking about, yeah, that sounds good. Their deal is real good. It's comparable to Image, to what they're offering creators. There's a lot of creative freedom and then a lot of really good professional support at that company, which I like a lot. Bobby Curnow has been my editor, and it's the first time I've worked with an editor that I don't know as a writer, and I'm kind of sort of art directing too, because the artist I work with, Stephen Jones, who's old great friend of mine, he's super talented, but he's bringing like decades of pro animation skill over to do comics, and he hasn't done comics in a while, so his instincts are very animated oriented, and so in some places I'm just like helping him kind of thread the needle and as best I can without stepping on his toes, because I'm such a fussy motherfucker that I guess that I wrote this first script for myself to draw.
Right. Okay. So that's got to be tough.
And when you see my covers, you'll get an idea of what this would have looked like if I had just drawn it myself.
Right.
But I got the idea for the book just sitting in my buddy Steven's apartment when he was kind of starting his life over in the midlife. And he had a very sparse apartment, and he had his convention stuff set up just as decor. So I was looking at this, like, kind of pull down one of those pull up banner things.
Yeah.
And I was staring at it, and he had drawn this incredible version of Snake Plissken in his style.
Nice.
And it looked great. It was like such a cool like interpretation of Snake Plissken. It was all angular and completely caricatured, but it totally had the Snake Plissken vibe and that action feel. And I remember sitting there going, what if Greaser looked like that instead of like how I would do it, And would people buy something that I just thought up and wrote, as opposed to something that I'm used to people basically, you come for the art, stay for the story kind of thing. But I don't, so I was a little nervous, but I figured, okay, it's Magma Comics. They're kind of starting out. Maybe this is a good place to experiment and try something different. And what was really wonderful is that we only pitched 2 places, and we only got turned down once. So Magma was the second place we pitched, and they said yes right away. So that felt good too, because we put a little pitch packet together, and I don't know. I didn't know how how much of an uphill battle getting published would be. So the fact that it turned out to be a pretty easy fit at Magma was sort of exciting, because I went, well, what else can we do together?
Right.
If this works, so ideally, Steven's having a great time drawing the book. I wish he was on the show too. I'm going to start planning ahead for these things. He's a lot of fun to talk to. But the way I'm seeing it now is like, if this does well, please pre-order issues 2 through 4, because that's really where they start. Everybody buys number 1, and then 2 through 4 don't get any love, and then publishers start thinking nobody's reading it, even if they are. So the exciting piece is that if we do okay with these first 4 issues, they'll collect it, and then we would like to keep the series going. So I've already got the second arc kind of thought out and where it's going to go from here if they say yes. And then I have a whole thing that I'm playing with the idea of maybe writing and drawing the backstory, like how we got here. Yeah. So like kind of doing the prequels, but it's a really fun universe, and working with Steven has inspired me so much to expand on it and think it more through. And but the more I work on it, the more ideas I get, and that's a good problem.
Yeah. The more I talk to creators that are working with Magma, what you said earlier keeps coming up, which is like experimenting and playing with things, doing something outside of the box that you're used to doing, which is what's very interesting about what they're doing, and why I think a lot of their books are really good.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's when you give creators, especially ones like Jackson and Colin, the Hive Mind guys, like, we've all done such extensive mainstream stuff. Like, that experience doesn't just disappear when you take on something original. You glean all of that experience, and you know how to focus it into something you want to do. And what you do is you end up getting like a mainstream quality book with indie ideas. And that's kind of, there used to be a place for that, like Wildstorm and Vertigo and companies like that just aren't around anymore. So Magma's kind of filling in that void, and I'm kind of excited. I think the books look awesome. I love the people that are in the lineup around me, and looking forward to being in San Diego this next week and hanging out with them and
Nice.
signing for everybody.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I don't think we really touched on it that much, but what is the book Greaser Gemini Blues all about?
Oh yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about 100-something years in our immediate future, and it's set out in the middle of the Nevada desert, just about 80 miles outside of what's now called Old Vegas. So it's about 80 miles outside of Las Vegas, and it's already hot there now. But in 100 years, it never cools off. But human beings adapt, and somewhere along the line, about 40 or 50 years between now and then, the aliens arrived. And instead of it being like this big, like, oh my God, they're aliens, it sort of ended up being more of an integration. Like, we got over the shock, and then because they could communicate, and then they brought technology and things like that they could trade and use to sort of help stabilize a very crazy world. Because when everything gets so hot and out of control, we lose a whole lot of the population, and the United States has fallen apart. There is no federal government anymore. It's just an alliance of governorships. So like every state is its own little country. Mm-hmm. And the Gemini, as a species, they can't exist in the heat more than 48 hours. So it's when they originally were setting up plans, because I'm actually trying to draw from a lot of, I hate to say the word real, but existing folklore about UFOs, and because I love that stuff.
That's really cool.
I'm like crazy for that stuff. So like everything I'm kind of pulling from is based on some existing theory or legend about, aliens. And, I'm turning into that guy that you always see in the meme, aliens.
Tinfoil hat guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but not the tinfoil part, but like just the interesting stuff. So the idea that maybe aliens jump-started the human race. Well, that's fact in my story.
Okay.
So all the
aliens.
Questions that we've had, like that stuff. So all the questions we've had about it are now answered because it was the Gemini all along. And they're actually originally based on this, there's a sighting of apparently extraterrestrials that look like tall Swedish people. I don't know if you know that particular theory, but it's true that they have perfect skin and these kind of unsettling eyes, and they're supposed to be alien human hybrids. So those were all real. They were what's the thing? A scout party. Mm-hmm. So they were integrating with human civilization. But by the time the Gemini made their big move to Earth, it had gone kind of over the edge with climate. So it was now too hot for them to exist, and they're kind of pissed about it because like this place was a paradise. What did you do while we were gone?
Right?
While we were preparing for all this,
you fucked it all.
So you fucked it all up. And so like as a result, one of the lead characters is Kira. And that she's the beautiful blue-skinned alien girl that Buddy is totally crushes on. Yeah. And but their love is forbidden, so it's a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet situation. And her dad, he's a species. He's not a racist. He's a species. Like he can't stand human beings at all. He thinks they're scummy and useless. And they look what they've done to their planet. I can't imagine them touching my daughter. So Buddy and Kira's love is forbidden. And her dad's the sheriff, and what he does is in Buddy's world, he's our protagonist, our lead character. There he is. So Buddy, his thing is he can fix stuff. That's what his jam is, and the reason it's called Greaser is that now that the aliens can't exist in the desert heat, they can't work on their own ships and keep it afloat, and they can't leave Earth, and that's another story entirely, but and no spoilers, but they hire guys like Buddy to come out and work on the ships because from the outside they're the only ones that can handle the heat. So and there's kind of an exchange going on where they can kind of survive getting this work, and so it's sort of a mutual need. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a contract or a peace.
Yep.
Because they need each other, but they don't like each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody that works out on these ships that hang out over the desert are called greasers.
Okay.
And so, and that's sort of that's the work that they do. They'll fix the ships and keep them running, but you know, they don't want to interact with them. And so but the younger generations are like, you got to get over that stuff. These are, you know, they're just people. And so, and so all the people that Buddy knows are greasers, and the book opens up with a friend of his who's an old man who's a greaser, and he runs a little radio program. But all the magnetic wave that happened when the Gemini broke into the atmosphere and arrived kind of upset everything. So unless you live in the old domes or under the biodomes of old Vegas, because now Las Vegas and places like that are completely covered with these old biodomes, and they keep the temperature perfect. They grow their own meat, like chemically, or you know, clone it, and then they can grow vegetables and things like that. So you can live pretty comfortably under the domes, but if you can afford it. And so that's why the slogan on the front of the first issue is "Outside the dome, you're on your own." And Radio Pete, the older greaser, he runs a little radio show that kind of brings us into the world in the beginning of the first issue. He plays records for other greasers, but all of his stuff is like, you know, from our era, because there's no MP3s or anything like that anymore. It's all been wiped out. So it's like, unless you like my grandfather's, you know, flavor of licorice pizza, you're on, you know, that's all I got for you. Here's some Tom Petty, you know. Of course, he's just playing the stuff I like because it's my writing.
Yeah, you
my
wrote
story.
It, right?
He's going to play David Bowie.
Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah, he is.
So you've thought about this book a little bit?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I just made that up as we were talking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I think it's really exciting. It sounds like a really fun story.
It's going to go places. The funny part was, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go, keep talking, please.
The fun part was that, you know, when we first started on this, it was like 4 years ago. So Steven just kind of got in there and started drawing before really consulting me or talking about where we're going with this. Mm-hmm. And he started setting up a world as if it was like what happens in the first 10 pages is what's going to happen for the rest of the series. And that would be like if you were writing a Star Wars comic and you thought the whole thing would always take place on Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen's moisture farm. Like, exactly. You know, like Luke's never leaving this place. It's just all about him fixing droids and, you know, and going out and checking moisture evaporators and looking in the sky with binoculars, and then the credits roll, you know.
Yeah, exciting.
It's not that story. It's like, no. And so I had to explain to Steven, like, no, don't put all this work into these characters. Like, they're going away real quick.
Yeah,
we're getting out of here and we're going places. So the story has a pretty good arc, I think, you know, but I wrote it, so of course I'm going to like it. But I'm getting really good feedback on it, and it is going to go places, and I'm excited about the world that we're building. And it's been fun because Steven will bring in stuff that this extra work he puts into the designs, he's a great designer, will actually make me stop and go, oh, I didn't think they would look like this. I was thinking this. But then I have to let go a little bit and go, but what if it was about that? And then it inspired a whole other thing. So
that's cool.
I wish I could explain that more in detail, but it won't make any sense if I did.
Well, I mean,
sure
it's
what
also
I'm saying makes very little sense.
It's also it's an exercise in you letting those things go, right?
Letting go.
You usually had a lot of control over all that stuff. So
and because I wrote the first issue for myself to draw, like there was a whole lot of details that I left out in the script. I wrote a story that an editor could pick up and go, okay, I understand what's happening, but I didn't put a lot of art direction because, you know, why would you write out the words if you're going to the grocery store and you know you need to pick up like eggs and milk? You're not going to write out grade A eggs in a paper carton, you know?
Aisle number 5 at the end.
Right.
Yep.
Foster's not, you know.
It's
so. That was the, so I'm writing it with like shorthand on the art because, you know, I knew what I was going to do with it. But then I realized when Steven got to it, he was just like, oh, it's wide open. I'm going to run down this road or I'm going to climb up that tree. And I go, oh, but he wouldn't do that. And she wouldn't talk like that. And that's, you know, but he really, I think he fell in love with the idea. and a lot of the variant covers reflect that too, that everything's happening kind of in a set world like my cover, which is really just an introduction to the characters. Because I like any first issue that shows you who the cast is.
Yeah, you want to know the cast of characters. But like you said, you don't have to necessarily stay in the same area.
Right. Like Teen Titans #1 that Darick Perez drew. It's like it told you everything you needed to know. If you'd never read Teen Titans before, you understood that, oh, okay, this dude can change into animals and this girl can fly and this one's got magic powers, just looking at the cover image. And so I try to, that's still my where my heart and soul is as far as storytelling goes. Like, show them who they are. Mm-hmm. Try to give them some personality.
And Chris got it pulled up.
And then there's Steven's cover, which is great.
Yeah, I really like that cover. So who's the grandma with the shotgun? Can you tell us about her?
Yeah, that's Grandma.
Okay. Oh, that's Grandma. All right. Okay.
That's Grandma. That's Buddy's grandma. She's badass. She, they live out. So the whole thing's kind of an allegory from different approaches. And well, this allegory is kind of like the Old West, where, and I always thought about, you ever see a movie called The Searchers? It's a great film, John Wayne movie, I believe.
Oh, and, okay. John Wayne movie. Okay.
Yeah, from the 50s. But one of the things, it's like they're on a homestead and they're invaded and then they basically get decimated. And I thought, wow, what a crazy, horrible existence the Old West must have been, where you can used to be going about your day, but you never know who's going to like to show up on your land and murder everybody, because there's no and so in this world, that's kind of the diner that they're running, and this diner is like, that's an exaggeration to call it even a diner at this point, but it's like holding on by a thread. But you can get a cup of coffee or some beer or whatever if you're driving by on your way to Old Vegas, if the racers don't get you first. And so you can stop into Granny's diner there, and Buddy has he's working on a bunch of stuff out in the back. So that car you see there is Badass Betty, and Badass Betty is made up of all these harvested parts that he's been able to go out into the, because I picture the old highways after everything got kind of devastated and wiped out by the magnetic storm, and cars were abandoned. So like he could just go drive down the highway and find, oh, there's a tire that'll work for me, or hey, I'm going to take that converter and stick it into. So he's kind of been building this monstrosity of a car with a vision of what it's going to be, and it's a long way from his vision. This is why it looks like a hunk of junk. But it's kind of like a cheaty bang bang of sci-fi muscle car, where it's got a lot of surprises in it, because in order to get from where Buddy lives out in the middle of the desert to someplace like Old Vegas, where he has to go to like pick up parts or do jobs or whatever, he can't afford to live in the dome, but he's allowed to go work in the domes. He needs something to get him from point A to point B without stopping, because if you slow down or you stop, there are these beings that kind of dominate that desert called racers. And what racers will do is they'll chase you down, run your vehicle off the road, take everything you have, kill you, cannibalize you. So
awesome, lovely,
yeah,
lovely.
And they're really sweet. If you just buy them a Coke, you'll get a smile. But anyway, bottom line is, he lives in a dangerous world, kind of like, and I said, it's a little bit like Cowboys and Indians sort of thing, where like you can't go through certain. If you ever saw the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, for example, when that when they're going through that one area and the dog runs away, and next thing you know, you're under attack by people that are going to kill you. Yeah. So he's been building this vehicle for more efficient trips to also to go out and work on the ships, the Gemini ships, which is his other job. So he's pretty excited about this car he's been building. And Buddy's just got a natural inclination for fixing things. And he's a little inspired by my dad, who was like that. My dad was a mechanic. And so like all this imagery that I'm sort of manifesting with Steven is based on my love of, I can almost smell an old garage, and then it's like a comforting feeling when I smell, oil and grease and things like that, because my father was always under a car or fixing somebody's TV for them or whatever, and he was kind of incredible that way. Awesome. And he could fix anything. And so I kind of gave Buddy that ability. So Buddy's a fixer. He makes things work, and I kind of like it. He's not he's less likely to pick up a gun. I mean, he's tough and he can defend himself, but he's not a guy that's going to pick up a gun and solve his problems that way. He's more like he's going to think his way out of a situation or create, or like MacGyver something to fix a situation rather than destroy. He's more of a fixer, and rather than harming people, he'd rather figure out a way to make it work. But Grandma, on the other hand, comes from a different breed. So Grandma will shoot your ass.
Yeah, she'll shoot
in a hot minute.
Yeah.
She'll put him, especially if you do anything to Buddy. If you try to hurt Buddy, she'll put a buckshot right in your gut.
She'll start blasting.
She will blast and ask questions later. So Grandma is not from the same cloth as Buddy is, but she raised him to be this way. So he's been her sole caregiver for a long time. And why? We're going to find out.
All right. That's awesome. I can't wait.
I want to do her. I really want to do her story. Her backstory is like what I'm thinking of, like what she looked like when she was not, Grandma.
Yeah, how bad
and how she got there, and why she's such a badass, and what she survived, and what she saw, and what life was like when the aliens first arrived, and changed everything. And
I was
the
downfall she's like the perfect character to show like the progression to this world, because she's had to have lived through it.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
She's hanging on, and she's one of those people that can't afford to live in the dome. So outside the dome,
shit's crazy.
You're on your own.
And I'm going to bring this up because we just talked about this episode earlier. There's another cover of a comic we saw with a dog on it, and I saw there was a dog on the first cover.
That's Sparky.
Sparky, can we just my only request? Don't kill Sparky off in the comic. Just don't do it.
No promises.
Okay. Okay.
Here's the good news about Sparky, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Sparky's not a real dog. He's an AI dog.
Oh shit!
Now I had this idea because if you guys are dog lovers, and it sounds like you are, my request. One of the things, and Steven draws Sparky really well. Like, I can't believe how naturally he captures dog stuff. Like, I'm almost jealous of it. But but the thing with Sparky is, like, I've lost. I had a dog that I loved very much for 11 years, who we had to say goodbye to because he got sick. And anybody that's ever had to put a dog down that you love, or, had a dog you loved and you still miss, will understand that. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have a dog that never dies, doesn't need to shit, but acts and smells and looks just like a real dog, but it was just an AI, and you could keep it forever, and it would feel and look and act like a real dog because you could just program that stuff in. Well, that's Sparky. And the reason I call it Sparky is that Radio Pete, who's a character you'll meet in issue 1, he brings us into this world. Radio Pete used to fix AI prostitutes for the brothels in Old Vegas. So there's like AI brothels. So humans don't have to do that work anymore. They just have realistic looking robots that will take care of your needs. And that's what Alice is. You see Alice crouching down there with Sparky. And she's a major character in the first in the first arc. So a lot of the story is really about Alice. And Alice is an acronym. So she and Sparky are both AI beings, and Radio Pete used to fix them. So making things work is sort of like what this story is about, keeping things alive and refurbishing. And but the nice thing about Sparky is he can't die. He just needs to be recharged.
Nice.
And even if he got, even if something killed him, you can fix him and bring him back.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, and the reason he's called Sparky, I don't know if we're going to get a chance to show it, but when he runs, his back leg sparks because it's a little worn out.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because I was talking about how, like, in comics, you have the opportunity to, like, immortalize things for as many issues as you want. So with a dog, just like keep it alive. That's my. Yeah,
well, I'm gonna break some hearts if I do this right, because
that's all right.
Every good story should.
Yeah, that's all right. Fair enough.
So no spoilers, but shit's gonna happen.
Yeah. Okay. I figured that.
But I would hope that would make you want to read it, as opposed to.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Don't worry, everything's fine all the time.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Story after story of Buddy working in his yard, waving at Grandma.
Yeah, nothing.
Zero conflict whatsoever.
No conflict. Yeah.
Come get some chili. Okay.
Yeah. I'm super excited for it, Darick. I can't wait to read it.
Thanks. I really hope you enjoyed it. It's a very big world, and there's a lot of really. I'm really doing my best to set up. I've been so blessed to work with so many amazing writers over my career. But I started out as a writer, and when I was writing and drawing Space Beaver. Now I had no idea what I was doing, and I got thrown into the deep end of the pool, and everybody like, just swim, dude, swim.
Yeah, just do it.
And so I did, and here I am. But over the years, I've actually had the chance to write here and there and write and draw my own stuff here and there. But I've always worked with good people, and I have a lot of people in my life that I trust that I'll reach out to and say, hey, is this good, or am I wasting my time? But I've got a lot of encouragement, especially on this. Mark Wade said it was great. Fabian Nicieza came back. I'm really impressed with how good this is. So, and these guys were editors as well. So I always feel if I win the respect of a guy, not only two of the best writers that ever work in comics, but people that also can edit, like that. I'm really getting an honest feedback. And Bobby Curnow is a good editor too. And he's been really supportive, and he reads and gets into it and gives me a lot of positive guidance. So it's been nice. And I wrote and drew Batman recently for the Legends of the Dark Knight reboot. And I wrote and drew Conan the Barbarian about a decade or so ago. And, for Dark Horse, but that, so it's not like I've never done this, but this is the first time I've really invested my time into writing stuff that I'm not drawing. I just wrote a 96-page graphic novel for a comic titled Crestar and the Night Stallion, based on a film property that the creators are promoting. And that was a lot of fun. And you can look up the trailer for Crestar and the Night Stallion, Crestar with a C, on YouTube, and get an idea of what we're doing. But it's been great working with them, because it's been an opportunity. I came in just to art direct what they already had, and ended up rewriting the dialogue on issue 2, ended up kind of rewriting issue 3, and they're like, dude, just keep going, just write us a graphic novel. And I did, and I didn't draw any of it. I just guided it through.
That's
but
awesome.
It was kind of fun. I got my first feedback on it last night, because they sent me a screen grab of somebody that was reviewing it, and they were like, "Oh God, this ending!" And I was like, "Yeah, that's the ending. I was hoping they'd react like that." So I'm starting to feel like maybe I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, you had a little bit of experience with it, I think. I mean, you've always
it's never been the main focus of my job. Storytelling.
Yeah, you've always been a storyteller. Now you're just like switching the side of your brain to it's, I'd say more, well, not technical, but it's just a different approach, right? And
I really love the art and craft of writing, and I've always been a big cinema fan. So every time, I'm the kind of guy that will buy a screenplay of a book and just read the screenplay. And I've read a lot of books on script writing and how to make a screenplay. And so comics and screenplays have a lot in common in the way that you direct it and the way things have to happen. But the big difference with this kind of goes back to the Boys TV show too. Like, I understand their job and their conflict and challenge is totally different than what we had to do in the comics, because at no point in a movie are you going to get a guy to stand all the way over to this side of the screen, so all of this area here can be filled up with his dialogue.
Right.
Because in a movie, they'll just have him say his 15-minute monologue or whatever. His speech can just happen, and they'll change shots, and he just can go on as long as he needs to. But in comics, you have a real estate for that part of the storytelling, and you have to make sure that the information coming out of your characters is succinct, entertaining, and drives the story forward somehow, while leaving room for the art. And also, you want to get your page turns to be interesting. So the last thing that happens on a page makes you want to look at the first thing that happens on the next page. That's also not a thing that you deal with in cinema.
Right.
And on top of that, a comic book, reading a comic is such a personal experience, because if you have somebody's head explodes, for example, I always think of that panel I had to draw for Transmetropolitan of his friend getting assassinated. But it's like, you can look at that panel for as long as you want to before you turn the page, or you can go back and look at it some more if you feel like you want to, even if you're a couple pages ahead and it's sticking with you. But in a movie, you're sort of on a roller coaster, and they're going to take you where it's got to go. So if somebody's head explodes and they only want you to see it for a hot second, you'll only see it for a hot second unless you're like working your remote.
Right.
So it's a very different approach to how you get somebody to feel and experience and get into your story, because you don't have the same control over your audience as you do in a film or a television production as you do in comics. You kind of have to lure people in to go, okay, I want to make this moment so powerful or so interesting that you're just kind of going along with, with the ride I'm taking you on. But it's your choice. You can get out of the boat at any time,
Yeah. Yep. That's
right, yeah.
We always talk about all the time how cinematography and comic paneling, it's very similar in how you like look at the panel from the shot and things.
Especially old noir comics.
Yeah.
Old noir movies are a great source of like, I study a lot of film noir and like try to apply it to inking and setting up shots because when they only have black and white had to be your buddy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I always think of artists that become writers, and I come back to Chip Zdarsky, like one of my favorite writers in the industry right now. And I have to think like there's so much to be learned as an artist, because you're getting all of these scripts from different writers over your career, and you can kind of see what works, what doesn't work, what all the different styles, and kind of blend them together. And that has to be a big help in you like making that transition to writing or improving your writing over time.
Well, I mean, but learning just how a script goes together. I mean, when you are constantly absorbing and then translating, great writers. I've had such a wonderful career working with so many terrific, talented people, and I've always had a good nose for like who a good writer from a bad writer too. Like in that, I knew Warren Ellis was going to be a big star when I read his first scripts, because I'm like, this is great stuff. Like the way he structured things, the details he would include. And then that's why Transmetropolitan ended up being so good, is that we had a really good understanding of what each other's strengths were. But but that's a great example of like, oh, okay, this guy I'll work with will give me very little information, a very loose structure, and give me a lot of freedom to just do whatever I want. Some guys write in what they call the Marvel style, and they'll just give you a page telling you what happens on the page. They won't even break it down by panel. Other people will be very meticulous and say, okay, I want this panel 1, this panel 2, this, and then this happens, and it needs to be this color, and put things off to the far right so we can do this. And so some people really structure it out in their minds, and other people like, Darick, you do your thing. Like one of the nicest compliments I got was from the late great Keith Giffen. And I've been going through a bunch of my stuff lately. I make the habit of thinking I can hold stuff up for the camera and you're going to see it, but I'm going to try. But I found a box in the attic. Let's see if we can put this into focus, everybody.
Yeah,
sorry if you can't.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
it was there for a little bit. There you go.
Okay, that's as best as you're going to get. Yeah. That's a Keith Giffen breakdown from a Justice League issue I did when I was first starting.
That's amazing.
But this is how Keith would write. Like he didn't want to write all that out. It was just quicker for him to sketch.
Yeah.
And so they'd send us a script with what the dialogue was going to be, with one of those, with Keith having broken down every page.
Yeah.
And but it was great. It was educational as could be for me. But as I went on, like I found out like Keith was encouraging me to just do my own thing. Like, okay, look at the layout, but if you got a different idea, I don't care. Have fun with it, which was very supportive and educational for me. But what was great is we ended up working on The Authority years later, and he wrote a Midnighter sequence where he's going to attack basically an army out in the desert and has to fight a helicopter and all this other stuff. But he said, I could break this down, but I know that Darick can handle it. So Darick, just do what you want. And because 3 pages of an action sequence, have fun. And I was like, oh,
that's awesome.
It felt like I got a medal for storytelling from Keith Giffen. It's like, he didn't even write it. He just said, Darick, you know what to do. Go for it.
He knows what to do. He can handle it. Yeah.
Yeah. I trust you. You got it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool.
That is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to have you here all day, Darick, but I know you're a busy guy and we've probably taken enough of your time already. But I just want everyone to know, as of today of the release of this episode, you have 1 week until Greaser Gemini Blues hits stores July 24th, I believe, is the release date. So, yep. And if our viewers and our listeners, if they're not following you by now, which I don't know why they aren't, where do you want to send them on social media or anywhere to?
I'm over on Blue Sky as Darick R. That's a lot friendlier. And I'm still on X, Twitter. I don't know why, but I just mostly complain. I promote my work and complain about politics. So if you don't like my politics, you're not going to like following me. But
it's all right. It's all right.
You know, I just don't. Everybody makes me mad right now. I'm the Spider Jerusalem in me gets to take his anger out on Twitter.
Oh yeah, it's all right. I enjoy it here. I enjoy it. I still follow you, Darick. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think you'll know I'm fair.
Yeah.
I don't attack people. I just lay out the facts and go, what the hell, people?
You just shouted to the
we all agree that a red is red and this is an apple and it doesn't have,
the sky is blue. In it. Yeah.
Yeah, the sky's blue and it's not full of chemtrails. Can we just get back to that?
Can we get to that? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
That's all I ask. Let's just discuss facts.
Good luck.
I'm doing the accordion answer.
Yeah. Darick has more hope than I do.
Yeah.
I try to stay optimistic.
Yeah.
So everybody out there watching,
you're on your own.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To everybody out there watching and or listening, you know the drill. There's going to be links in the show notes below. I'll link to the previews pages for both the Greaser series, so you can get the order number for your local comic shop, and also the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #5, so you can make sure you order that as well. So make sure to check those out. And Darick, thank you so much for stopping by, man. It's always just an honor to have you here.
It was really fun. Thanks for having me. It was good talking to you guys again.
Appreciate it.